Okay, so today we're going to be doing something completely different, right? It's a Monty Python moment. Do something completely different. And that is we're going to learn how to build a basic web page. You ask yourself, why am I learning how to build a basic web page in an Illustrator course? And that's because typically you're going to be creating graphics in Illustrator for a web page, right? So we need to know how to do that, and the second reason that we're going to learn how to do this is because your final project in here is to create a portfolio of the work that you've done in Illustrator. We're going to put it into a web page, okay? And that web page is something that you can take with you from class to class, and you can put your work in there so that at the end of your schooling experience, if you put that on a flash drive or something, you could take it to an employer and say, hire me, this is what I can do. All right, so it's a way to be able to showcase your work, okay? But you need to know a little bit of HTML, and that's what we're going to do today. Okay, so HTML is nothing more than text, just so you guys know. There's nothing special about it. It's just text in a document that ends in .html. Okay, so it's nothing more than a text document. But when you put .html on the end of a text document, the browser knows what to do with it. That's the instruction piece to a browser that says, oh, I know what to do with an HTML file. I treat it like text, and it's going to be expecting some certain structure in the document, and that's what we're going to learn how to do today. So let's go ahead and just in way of preparation, let's go to, let's say, your documents or wherever it is you're going to be saving files. I'll just go to stick it in my documents. Let's create a new folder, and I'm going to name this HTML page. All right. Now, inside the HTML page, I'm going to put a really, really common folder that you're going to see in there, and that is images. So I'm going to create a new folder inside HTML page, call it images. Okay. So if I back up, you can see I've got my HTML page. I can go ahead and get rid of this. I think. No, maybe I won't. I've got my HTML page. Inside it, I got an images folder. Okay, now I need to open up a text editor, and in our computers that we've got here, we've got a text editor called Notepad++, and that's what you're going to want to get. So I'm going to go down to my search bar, type in Notepad++, and that's what that looks like. And I don't want to update that. All right. So Notepad++. This is where we're going to create our first web page. Everybody at this point, you got it open? Memory, you got it? Okay. So with a web page, the very first web page that you come to, a landing page in most websites, is going to be named default.html. And what that means is the web server automatically looks for that file. Okay, so you want to call your landing page default.html. So we're going to save that now. File, I'm going to save as. I'm going to go ahead and put it inside my folder here. Where are you? Documents in my HTML page. I'm going to call this default. And where it says save as type, I want to change that to HTML if I can find it here. Okay, I'm not finding it. Oh, there we go. Hypertext Markup Language, HTML. So you're looking for Hypertext Markup Language. That's what HTML stands for. Hypertext Markup Language. That's a pretty fancy name for text. Okay. So once we've got that in place, we're ready to actually start coding a little bit. Now this isn't going to make a lot of sense to you right up front, but that's okay. So if you follow along and just get kind of used to it, it'll be easier as we go. Okay, in the lesser than, greater than symbols, all right, so it starts off with the left, I don't know what you call that symbol, the less than symbol, it's that one. What is it? Yeah, opening bracket, right? So that's what we call it in HTML, is the opening bracket. I was looking for the character name, I just don't remember what that is. So we'll say less than, right? And so in HTML, we use opening brackets and closing brackets a lot. So in this, there will be content inside here. Okay, so this is what we're going to be using a lot of. So this is an opening bracket here. We'll call this, this is exclamation point, doc type. Yeah, it's usually in caps. I don't think it really matters that much, though. And then HTML, and then the closing bracket. What that does is it tells the browser, oh, we're going to be using HTML today. Okay, so this is it's like saying beginning the conversation with, we're going to be speaking English today. Right, that's what it's doing. Okay, when we say doc type HTML, and then we're going to start the next line with the opening bracket, and it's going to say HTML. Now you'd think that is sort of redundant, but in the world of browsers and web design, what we've just told the browser is we're going to be using a certain version of HTML, and that is HTML5. Okay, that's the default setting for HTML5 right there. Okay, and most of the time when you have an opening comment like that, you also want to have a closing comment. The way you make the closing comment is just exactly the same way you wrote HTML, except there's a slash in there. So it is opening comment, opening bracket, and then slash HTML. What that does is it ends the conversation. In conclusion, HTML. We're done talking. Okay? That's how the browser reads that. So everything that we do is going to be between these two statements, HTML and closing HTML comments. All right? All right, so now in your basically structured page, you want a title. So in brackets, I say title. Right, there's a closing bracket there. And then I'm going to say HTML, whoops, I'm going to misspell it, HTML tutorial. And then I'm going to close the title. So if you can't see it up there, I'll write it right here on the board. Okay, so this is what closes, all right, it says this is a closing tag, is that slash here. All right, now, under the title, we're going to start the body. Now, the body is everything that you see when you open up a web page. Yes, sir? Right here? No, no space, yeah. So in between the body tags, the opening body tag and the closing body tag that we're going to write right now, is the stuff that you see when you open up a web page. Anything above the body is not going to be showing up. Okay? This is a space for information. Okay, sometimes we put what's called metadata in there, and that is something that's useful for searching web pages, right? So when Google looks for your web page out there, it's usually looking within that top portion, okay? All right, so within the body, I'm going to go ahead and just put some text in here. I'll put a small step for a man, giant leap for mankind or womankind, if you feel so inclined. Doesn't really matter what the text is here. Now go ahead and save that. Okay, so now once you've got this, let's go to a browser. I'm going to open up a new page there. Now, this is kind of a handy little feature. If you go back to your File Explorer, you should just be able to grab that HTML page, that default, and drag it into your open browser window. And it'll show you what the actual page is. So, for how many of you is this your first ever web page? Cool. All right. All right. And does it look like this? I would call that a success. Hooray. Okay, so let's go back to Notepad++. Now, it's called hypertext markup for a reason. And the markup are those things that you see in those lesser than, greater than symbols, okay? So if I want to mark something up, let's say a small step, let's say I want a bold giant leap for mankind, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my lesser, or my tags, I'll just call it tags, all right? I'm going to put a B in front of that, and I'm going to put an end B at the end of it. So what I'm doing right now is I'm bolding this line. Okay, once you've got that in, go ahead and save it. And then go back to your Chrome page or your browser page, whichever you opened up, and refresh it, which is Control-R on the keyboard. And it should have emboldened that line. Okay, that was for instruction purposes only. B is not used very much anymore. In fact, I think it's going the way of the dinosaur. What they use now is called strong. So let's go ahead and change that. So it's strong, and then end strong. There. And then go back. Just make sure that it didn't change much. Should have kept the bold there for giant leap for mankind. You bet. So I'm going back to Notepad++, and I changed this to strong. Is that where I lost you? Okay, so if I change the B here in my brackets, change that to strong, and then it needs to end strong. So I've saved it. Now I go back to my browser and hit Control-R. That should refresh the page. But because B and strong do basically the same thing, you shouldn't see any difference. Right? Can you open it with B and close it with strong? No. Let's try that. Well, what'll probably happen is it'll probably... you have to put text underneath it to find out. Yeah. Yeah, so here we go. I'll just go ahead and I'll start it as B and end it with strong. Okay? But I'm going to put some text behind it. This is my behind it text. Okay? Go ahead and try this. All right? And then save it and then see what happens in the browser. See if my prediction is true. What happened? It's all bold. After giant, right? It's all bold because it didn't end the bold, right? So putting an end to strong did not end the bold. Okay, you've got to actually pair those tags. You've got to have an opening tag and a closing tag. So I would put in there B. So I start with a B, end with a B. I'm going to go ahead and save it and go back to my Chrome page. And I see it did, in fact, end the bold. Okay? So that is your basic. Not at all. Okay, so the reason that they changed it to strong is unknown to me. But it brings up a point that we should talk about, and that is web design and web programming is constantly in evolution, and you're going to find tags that worked last year don't work anymore, and that's called a deprecated tag. So B is being deprecated. It's going the way of the dodo bird. It's just disappearing, right? It's not being used anymore. Eventually, browsers may not even support it. Right now, it's supported still, but they like you to use strong. The other is that you want to use the most current language for the web, especially for accessibility. And that has to do with, people who have readers. They're looking at web pages, and they might not see very well, and so their device is actually reading the page, and what it's looking for are those specific tags. And so you want to use the most current versions of whatever that is, because it might not recognize the B tag. And you think, well, no big deal. All right, the B tag, that isn't really a big deal. But there might be different tags that are important. You want to use the most recent versions, okay? The other reason that you want to stay current on the most current language for the web is there are jobs. I have seen them posted. There are jobs that basically say if you don't write code for accessibility, don't bother applying. All right, so if all you're doing is building web pages, but you're not thinking about accessibility, don't even bother. Right? So it's pretty serious. You just need to keep it in mind. Okay, I want to just throw it out there as a topic that you at least have heard before. Okay, because we're not going to get too deeply in that right now. Okay, so let's go back to our Notepad++ page, and I'm going to add a headline. All right, so I'm going to go after my opening body tag. I'm going to put in there in brackets H1. That is my first level header tag, or head tag, I should say. All right, it's head 1. And I'll put in here my first headline, and then end it. So I've got an opening tag, and I need to end that one. Go ahead and save that and see what it looks like on your browser. Did you get that result right there? Okay. So you'll notice what's going on in my text isn't the same thing that's going on here, visually speaking, right? So let's say I take out the hard return here between my headline tag and my body copy here, the small step for mankind. I'm going to go ahead and save that, and then refresh it on this page, and nothing should have happened. All right, so there are behaviors that are default behaviors for a browser. A headline will typically be very big, and it's going to have an automatic hard return. So if you ever put in your H1 tags, you don't have to, put a hard return in there. You don't have to use a break character to go down to the next line. It does it for you. These are some of the default behaviors in HTML. Okay, so but to keep it nice and clean, I always put my next line down below. Okay, so now let's say I want to do something special here, and I want to put a bunch of space here before small step for a man. So I just mash on the space bar a bunch of times. Go ahead and try it and see what the results are. Would you get one? Nothing. Did you also get nothing? Nothing. That's also a default browser behavior, right? It doesn't do anything with these blank spaces. Okay, so what that means is designing for the web is kind of tough. You have to do your spacing in different ways. Okay, you can't just say I want 5 spaces here. You can do that. It requires a different tag that I never use and everybody recommends against. Okay, so the point being that you've got to use certain devices to actually do design in a web page. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pull those out of there. With web design, anytime you have new content for a new paragraph, they like you to use paragraph tags. All right, so we're going to start off our small step for a man, and we'll put that in a P tag. That's P for paragraph. Right. And then we're going to end that P with a closing tag. And I'm going to go ahead and give another line down here. And I'm going to put a second paragraph in here. This is my second paragraph. Isn't it great? End that with a P. Save it. Go back to my browser and refresh the page. So what did the line break was the P tag. It wasn't my placement in the document, it was the P tag that gave me a line break between those two things. Okay? And that is important also for accessibility. Okay? So you want to format these in a way that makes sense. Okay, we'll do a couple little more things here. Isn't this great? Let's take the word great, and we're going to put it in italics, and the tag that's used for that is EM for emphasis. Okay? Then I'm going to put it right before the end of the paragraph. I'm going to put my closing tag in there, like so. Yes, that's right. Used to be I, it's being deprecated, and now it's emphasis. I honestly don't know the reasoning behind a lot of what they do, but I will tell you that you have to stay updated on it, and in the end, it doesn't matter why it's broke, why they're changing it. You still have to stay updated. Okay, so here we go. So the thing about tags is that they have to go in the right order. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this and look at our page. And sure enough, we get an italic here, or something close to it. Okay. Now here's what I will show you is not technically correct. It may work, but it may throw errors also. All right, so if I took the end EM, the closing tag, and I put it behind the P, this is the incorrect order. Okay, so anytime you start, you basically have to bracket your tags. All right, so if we start with that P tag, there needs to be an end P tag. If then inside the P tag you've got an emphasis tag, you need to end it before the end of the P tag. Okay, so you're trying to keep things closed within their spaces, if that makes any sense. Okay, so this, let's go ahead and see if it works. We'll go to our refresh the page here, and I'm just going to open up more tools here. See the developer tools, and see if it threw me any kind of errors. No, it didn't. But if you were to go and try and I forget the word. There are devices that you can throw your web page to a device that sees if there are errors. That will definitely show up. Okay, that's bad coding right there. All right. Back to this. All right, so we want an image, don't we? Let's go ahead and fix this emphasis tag. I'm going to put it back inside the P tag. Now, let's say, okay, here's another example. If I wanted to bold this great, how would I do it? Guide me through. If I want this italic and bold, how would I do it? Emilio, a little louder because I can't hear you very well. Pardon?
When you put between italic and bold, put it in the thing, start open strong.
Okay, right here? In front of the EM or behind the EM? Behind the EM, okay, and I want to put strong in there. Where does that mean the end tag will go? In front of the EM, good. Oh, for crying out loud. Let's do that. What did I hit? It's something here that is messing me up. Okay, so if you put that closing strong tag behind the closing M tag, is that okay? No, it's not okay. That's bad. Yes?
Would it matter though if you flip-flopped it so that strong without having EM on both sides?
Not at all. Yeah, just so long as you're closing them, before the next closing tag, right? So you're bracketing all of your code within its own sort of groupings. Okay, so yeah, so if I took strong and I moved it out there, I also have to take the ending tag, closing tag, and put it behind the closing M tag. Just so long as you got it in the correct order, it all works. Yeah. So let's go ahead and save that and look at our page. And sure enough, it's bold. Hooray! Okay. So now, let's do this. We're going to add an image. Now, an image is one of those weird ones that does not need a closing tag. All right. I'm going to type in here. Now, if we go back to our Canvas page, everybody still have that open? Day 33. I'm going to go ahead and download that file. It says lesson HTML and CSS. And we've got now in our downloads an image called Propeller Hat. Okay. What you want to do is you want to grab that from downloads and put it into your images folder. Okay, let's see here. Where are you? Cut. It's really important where it goes. Okay. So we created that images folder, and your images really need to be in that folder. Okay. Anywhere else will not do. Because what we're going to be doing in our HTML is saying, browser, you need to go out to this particular location and find that image. And if you put it in the wrong place, the browser can't find it. All right, it's not smart enough to know. Okay, so if I go back to my HTML page, tell me if I've gone too fast. You guys all with me? You got the propeller hat in your images folder? Okay, great. All right, so this is how you get an image in your web page. It is a tag that is IMG. Now you're going to tell it where it is. It's going to be src equals, and then whatever is in quotes, it's going to look for in that particular place, all right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close off this. Right now I have a completed tag right here. I just need to put my source in the in between the quotes. src equals, and then quotes, and it's going to be images, okay, and then a slash. And what that means is it's going into images, which is a folder. That's what the slash indicates, is at a folder. So if you've ever looked at, for instance, you look at a URL that you type in, and it gives you back this whole long string of junk, and there's a bunch of slashes in there. What it's telling the browser is, you're looking for these resources in this folder, which is in this folder, which is in this folder. So that's how that works. All right. So a file path in your web page is going to have a slash. Okay, and now you want to type in the name of that image, which is propeller hat. Propeller hat. .jpeg. And you can close that off. I hit a key on my keyboard that is changing the way my cursor works, and I never use that mode of doing things, so it's got me confused. But let's see if we can just make it through here. All right, so go ahead and save that. Go back to your HTML page and refresh it. Did you get that right there? Yes. Success. Amelia, you got that? Not yet? Okay. How about you, Juan? Still working on it? Okay. Emery? Okay. Yes.
Does it matter what file format the image is in for the browser to understand?
Yep. Yeah, so you remember last week we were talking about like EPS files and TIFFs and that kind of stuff. Most browsers don't recognize EPS or TIFF, but it does recognize JPEGs, GIFs, PNG files, and possibly SVG files. Okay. So it won't recognize, for instance, your Photoshop file, or shouldn't. But every browser is different, and they might be building greater capabilities into it. It just depends on the browser. That's the thing. I'm so glad that they've built in the capability of using PNG files nowadays, because PNG files have multiple layers of transparency, which means you can do a great deal of work with those, and they look great. They just look great on the web. All right. So there we go. We've got our image in there. Now, you'll notice it required no closing tag. That's one of those oddballs. All right. There are a few of those in web programming that require no closing tag. However, here's one of those accessibility issues. With every image that you put in, you have to put in what's called alt text. And that is for readers. So if a person is using a reader and they can't view your image very well, they at least can read a text description of what that image should look like. So within your image tag, so I'm going to go behind the closing bracket there, and I'm going to type in ALT equals, and then in quotes, put a description in. Guy wearing a silly propeller hat. End it with quotes and then that final bracket. Okay. Okay, so if we strip away the content here, if I just cut that for a moment. Did I forget the head? I did forget the head. I forgot something really important. Okay, there is a head tag. All right, so basically everything falls into two places. It falls into either the body, which you can see when you open your browser, or it fits into the head. So I've got a head tag and I've got a closing head tag here. The title goes in between, okay? Shame on me for forgetting that. But that's the basic structure of your HTML page, okay? So go ahead and make sure that is in there. Just going to double check. Yep, that's what I expected. I paste it back in. Okay. Okay, that is correct. All right. So if I take away my content here, briefly, this is the absolute essential stuff that you have to have in there to build a web page. Okay? I want you to look at that and memorize it. Okay? You got it? Got the basic pieces and parts? Okay, now without looking, I want you to create a new HTML document and type in the structure from memory. Because I want you to learn the structure, right? I want you to remember the structure. Okay? This is going to help you when it comes to HTML, when you're learning HTML. Okay? If you have to go back and look, fine. It's up there still. I want you to learn the structure. Okay? So just try it for yourself. Type it in from memory. Okay. Once you get that done, go ahead and save that as, I'm going to do save as page 2, and there should be no spaces in your file name, okay? So you can do underscores, you can do dashes, but no spaces. So I did mine, page 2 would be an underscore 2, and I'm going to change this to hypertext markup language, which it should automatically put a .html at the end. Save that there. Okay. How'd you guys do? Were you able to do it from memory? You got the basic structure? Okay. Most of it? Okay. Comes with practice. Okay, so once you've got that done, let's go back to your browser, and I'm going to add a new tab, then go back to my my File Explorer here, and I'm going to drop page 2 onto that. And the body text that I put in there was body text here. That is exactly what I expected to see. So I know that my page worked. So give yours a try. Put a little bit of body text in there. I want you also to notice whatever you put in the title tags shows up here in the tab, the very tab. So in my memory document, I put title here, and sure enough, it shows up here as the tab. In my HTML tutorial document, what I put in my title was HTML tutorial, and there it is. So anytime you go to a web page and it shows up in a tab, whatever that title of the document is, you can know that's how they created that. They put the title tag in their HTML document and it showed up. That's what it's looking for. Yeah, you bet. I'm going to go ahead and just close that one up. All right, so I go to my File Explorer, which is, your standard way of navigating, right? And then, did you find your page 2, whatever it is? All you have to do, I'm gonna create a new tab there, is drag it and drop it. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. You good, Emilio? Awesome. How about you, Juan? How'd you do? Bradley?
Oh, yeah.
You did it like days ago. Emery, good. Amy, you good? Okay. I think we'll go ahead and stop here unless you guys have any questions. Anything that you want to know? Alex, did you get this? Working on it. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and shut off our video.